Obama says Iran shouldn't misinterpret U.S. response to Syria. President Obama declared that the United States is still prepared to act militarily to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons despite the decision to pursue a diplomatic deal and not to strike Syria over its alleged use of chemical weapons. He also acknowledged that his approach to Syria's crisis has been uneven, but defended it as producing the right results. Obama spoke in an interview on Sunday's broadcast ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, taped Friday before the United States and Russia agreed on a plan to bring Syrian chemical weapons under international control in order to avoid military strikes. But Obama said Iran should not interpret the diplomatic response coming after he threatened to use strikes as suggesting that the United States wouldn't attack Iran to stop the development of nuclear weapons. I think what the Iranians understand is that the nuclear issue is a far larger issue for us than the chemical weapons issue against Israel, that a nuclear Iran poses is much closer to our core interest, Obama said. My suspicions is that the Iranians recognize they shouldn't draw a lesson that we haven't struck to think we won't strike her. I've read this like 4 times. And every time I read it, it gets more confusing. So whoever wrote this is a fucking retard. Maybe it's me, I don't know. Obama said that what the Iranians should draw from this episode is that it is possible to resolve this type of disagreement diplomatically. My view is that if you have both a credible threat of force combined with a rigorous diplomatic effort, that in fact you can strike a deal, he said, confirming that he had communications with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani by letter. Obama also defended his approach to the Syrian crisis, acknowledging that it has been turbulent, but insisting that it is achieving the right results. The comments come after a number of lawmakers and foreign policy experts on both sides of the aisle have criticized Obama for making the case to go to war with Syria, but deciding to ask Congress for approval, and then making the case for strikes to a prime audience while also announcing that he would first give Russian diplomatic proposals a chance to work. In response to those criticisms, Obama said he is less interested in style than results. I think that the folks here in Washington like to grade on style, and so we had rolled out something that was very smooth and disciplined and linear. They would have graded it well, even if it was a disastrous policy. We know that because that's exactly how they graded the Iraq War, Obama said. He added, I'm much more concerned about getting the policy right. As a consequence of the steps that we have taken over the last 2 weeks and 3 weeks, we now have the situation in which Syria has acknowledged it has chemical weapons and says it's willing to join the Convention on Chemical Weapons, and Russia, its primary sponsor, has said it will pressure Syria to reach that agreement. That's my goal, and if that goal is achieved, then it sounds like we might have did something right. Yeah. I'm not even going to get into it. Obama also played down differences with Russian President Vladimir Putin as Russia and the United States work together to resolve Syria's standoff. Mr. Putin and I have strongly disagreed on a whole range of issues, Obama said, but I can talk to him. We have worked together on important issues. This is not the Cold War. This is not a contest between the United States and Russia. Obama plans to pivot back to a focus on the economy this week ahead of major fiscal battles in Washington, and he says he could have changed the direction of the economy, including the upward path of inequality, if Congress would let him. I'm so fucking sick of this inequality shit. Asked if a president just couldn't stop inequality, he responded, I think the president can stop it. The problem is that there continues to be a major debate here in Washington. While he acknowledged that the government can't overcome every trend in the market, policies that invest in the economy pushes against these trends. And the problem that we've got right now is you've got a portion of Congress whose policies just don't want you to know, leaving things alone. They actually want to accelerate these trends. Alright, this is my take on the chemical weapons. Told you I'd give it to you. Now you have Assad who's sitting there saying, you know, we're not using chemical weapons. It wasn't us. It wasn't us. It wasn't us. And guess what? It wasn't them. Because think about their position. A country like Syria, who's got the United States up its ass, you know, they're not going to use chemical weapons on their own people. It just doesn't make sense at all. What does make sense to me is who's ever, well, we know the CIA is funding and arming these opposition rebel groups. Now, don't you think it makes more sense? I mean, look what happened in Libya. The same thing that happened in Libya is happening here. Doesn't it make more sense that these rebel groups, nobody knows who they are, you know, were given chemical weapons, or some operatives were given chemical weapons, use them on the Syrian people, and that way the United States could be like, oh my god, look, Assad's using chemical weapons against his own people. We have a reason now to go in there and use military force. You know, we know about the false flags. You know, they did it in Poland. They've been doing this for years. So that's my take on it, is that CIA or somebody gave chemical weapons to these rebel groups. They used them on the Syrian people, and then they turn around and say, look what Assad's doing. We need to go in there militarily and strike. That's exactly what's going on. You have a take on it, leave it in the comments below.